Welcome to Knock Your Socks Off, the podcast. I'm Ravi, joined by
Hannah.
Hannah. What are you knocking my socks off with today?
All right, so I'm giving us the opportunity to talk about two of our favorite things and essentially debate them. Those two things being Star Wars and Harry Potter. So buckle the fuck up.
I'd like to point out for anyone who's listening and not watching,
Sure.
you pointed at me for Star Wars
Good
and
call.
you for Harry Potter.
This is fair.
Why do you think I like Harry Star Wars? Harry Star Wars.
You like Harry?
I love Harry Star Wars, specifically Chewbacca.
Star Harry Wars Potter?
Star Harry Wars
Potter.
product.
Product.
I mean, they're all about product.
Oh, they all are. It's true.
But yeah, why did you do that point?
Well, I guess, I know that I love Harry Potter, so I guess I can't. Do you want to self-identify as a Star Wars fan? How about we should start there? How do you identify, Ravi?
I have Star Wars tattoos. I think it's pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious where the point came from.
Right, yes. I was being mean, I guess.
Facetious. Yeah, and all of my invisibility cloak tattoos.
Wow. That's pretty good, actually.
Nailing it. So we're not going to sit here and have a debate on what is better. That would essentially draw us to a stalemate where we both think that IPs that we love are the best of the best.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to try and knock your socks off with making you agree with me that I think that Harry Potter is the best. But we're just going to have a lively debate and see where we land, what kind of fun things and hot takes and things the internet can grab onto come out of this moment. You ready?
Let's go.
Okay. So now, granted, as we have done a different pod on Star Wars, I too am a Star Wars fan. I'm not a Star Wars hater by any means. I believe that there is enough love to go around that you can love Harry Potter and Star Wars in the same breath. So I'm not going to sit here and also tell everybody that I'm not a Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. But we both have our origin stories in a sense with when we came to love these unique IPs. How did you come to love Star Wars?
Oh, boy.
Where to begin?
Where to begin? No, I think it's one of those. Star Wars is one of those things where it's in your core or in my core.
Yeah.
Just earliest memories are, Vader is Luke's father. That was never really a big surprise, just kind of new.
Sure.
And it was always around holidays. Star Wars was on TV. Mm-hmm. So you'd watch it. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I'm of the generation that got the amazing prequels. And my first theater experience of Star Wars was episode 2.
That's right, episode 2, not
episode 1. Not episode 1,
yeah.
episode 2.
Yeah.
And
the love story.
The love story one.
Sand.
The clones. The clones and the sand. And I think, that's really where my Star Wars love came from, I guess, was there. And then as I've become an adult, it just has become a weird obsession.
Seeped into you and seeping out of you, really.
Correct.
I mean, you're bleeding Star Wars.
I mean, when you get a tattoo,
there's blood involved.
Blood.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. Well, there's no tears.
You've never cried over a Star Wars project ever?
One of the Mudhorn tattoo that I have hits near the elbow.
Sure.
And it's like a bone.
Sure.
That made me tear up for sure.
So we got it.
So, yes.
Blood, sweat.
And tears.
Because I don't have any tattoos. There are no invisibility cloak tattoos on me. So do you sweat when you get a tattoo as well? Is that
definitely.
A body reaction? I don't even know.
Depending on where the tattoo, for example, some of these tattoos, you have to rotate your arm in a certain way. And you have to hold it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So, there's definitely sweat involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there it is. Blood, sweat, and tears for Star Wars.
Boom.
I like it.
How about you? Where did Harry Potter start?
Harry Potter started, I have a really vivid memory. So I grew up in a pretty tightly regulated home. And so was one of the homes that believed that, at least at the first, that Harry Potter was, in the witchcraft of it all and in the, swaying children towards magic and witchcraft and evil and all the things. It took some negotiation and begging on my part as a kid to be able to read it. Because I always loved reading. And so as the books were coming out in the late 90s, I was the age that they were written for, the kid books of it all. But it took, I think it wasn't until, so my mom had to read the first one before me. And then I think she read up to the first half of the second book before I beat her out. And then she was just like, whatever. Even though from the third book on, it totally gets worse.
Does it?
I'm older. Oh my God. Yeah. The first book is essentially, it's not all happy-go-lucky. Obviously, again, Harry, has to defeat Voldemort in some fashion as a half man, half spirit on the back of someone's
Right.
head.
That alone is horrific.
It was.
I remember when so similar. Like I was at the age where the books came out as a kid, but
Yeah.
like I've always had a hard time reading books, so my mom would read them to us. And I remember when she explained that disgusting creature, I forget the teacher's name or whatever.
Yeah,
Quirrell. And he's the Defense Against the Dark Arts, right?
Correct, with the turban.
Right. And then
Yeah.
that thing, I was like, that is horrifying.
It is horrifying.
Yeah. How does it get worse than that? It starts off horrifying.
Well,
actually, it starts off with his parents being murdered, for
That's
fuck's
true.
sake.
An orphan just straight up.
Yeah, how is that happening?
Gotta stay with your abusive aunt and uncle for.
I'm
and
sorry. I'm
cousins.
sorry. Was it a Disney project?
It wasn't.
You
a
know,
Disney
Broken
project.
Family. God.
But it's funny because I remember reading that in a sense, kind of that climactic, scary scene in. Remember or did they have SSR? It was silent sustained reading or quiet time or something in elementary school where they forced you to read. Anyway, my teachers, shout out to Sacramento, California, and they had us do SSR, and it was like for whatever amount of time you all had to essentially sit there quietly, but in the time before phones and games and all this stuff, all of us read books or colored, I guess, or some shit. But
It sounds like more like forced time for the teachers to go have a smoke break and have a drink or something.
Exactly. But I clearly remember sitting on this wall, and I guess I don't know what grade I was in, but reading that scariest part of the book, and it was so captivating, but I felt so alive and just so I was on my own journey, even though a bunch of my friends were reading it too and all this stuff. But anyway, so it was birthed from my love of the books. And then when the movie started coming out, it was just all the more, intense and a moment for friends and I to bond over the love of that.
Did you I remember the movies primarily came out during the holiday season.
Yeah.
And it was a family tradition for us. We would all go, have a nice, go see an early morning, midday movie on Saturday, and then go get a nice little lunch.
Cute.
And it was a family outing thing. Yeah. Did you guys do that? Or
to go see Harry Potter, or to go see just a movie
Harry
of
Potter?
the time?
Harry Potter specifically.
I have more memories of going to those movies with friends. That was kind of more of a collection where we would try and go, especially because at that time when the midnight movies were the thing, and people would go to the midnight releases. So it was more of, I would say, as I came up, it was more it became Hannah's thing. There's an entire per my family. We went and saw Star Wars movies together, and we went and saw big fun. We went and saw all the Marvel movies together usually and stuff. But there was something about Harry Potter that also, I think, which is probably why it's further seeped into me, it was Hannah's. You know what I mean? And so everybody knew that I was a fan of it, and there was always the joke of every time a new book came out, is oh, is Harry gonna die in this one? Just every time it was. And then the moment that he does, spoiler alert, does die in the 7th book, he accepts his fate and he goes into death, basically. He kind of half dies. So he's in purgatory. Did you not know this?
I mean,
anyway, so I remember I was reading it on a family vacation because the books tended to come out in summer. The movies did tend to come out in winter, but the books tended to come out in summer. And I remember getting it on a family vacation, and the entire family vacation, I was reading that book, and I remember just sobbing, and everyone was like, "It's happening."
Harry's finally dead.
Dying, and Hannah's having a crisis moment. But it was mine. So anyway, for the sake of family traditions or friend traditions, community traditions, it was definitely more of my friends and I going and seeing Harry Potter and finding the gravitas of that moment, being with friends rather than family. So what was how did you read any Harry Potter movies or read any Harry Potter books?
Oh, that's an interesting so you agree then? Hold on, I know this was a whole Star Wars versus Harry Potter thing, but I'm more what's better, the book or the movies? Clearly,
the books.
The movies are better, according to Hannah.
Whoa!
You literally were just did you read any of the Harry Potter movies?
I did.
That is a fascinating slip, and I will never ever let you live that down.
Cool, thanks. Thanks.
It's on tape.
It is on tape. Am I blushing? I'm for sure.
You're definitely blushing over the fact that, wow, your love of the books. Wow, you clearly didn't love them enough.
No. Carry on.
So
did
Daniel...
you read any of
No,
Harry Potter?
we're digging into this. So wait, does that mean Daniel Radcliffe, is he your Harry Potter? The big thing right now at Warner Brothers is that they're supposedly either rebooting the movies, doing a series, doing A, B, C, Z, Y, X. Are you gonna be one of those people that will be hashtag not my Harry?
No.
Okay.
I do love Daniel Radcliffe, and I
Sure.
do perpetually, even in all the other projects he's in, perpetually see him as Harry Potter.
Right.
But I definitely am open to interpretation of what that can be, especially because within the Harry Potter community, when the like play came out, when the playwright came out, and they cast Hermione Granger as a black woman, that really became an awful like internet thing of not my Hermione Granger kind of thing because she didn't look like Emma.
Gotcha.
And so I think vehemently be against anyone saying not my Harry Potter because it's like it's an interpretation of whatever well as like
that's good. Yeah.
You know, yeah. If they tried to make it like an epilogue and they really wanted it to be a continuation and they wanted it to look like Daniel Radcliffe, it would be odd for them to like essentially fully do like a recast of some kind or not a recast but like a fully different like looking person, I guess.
Isn't Daniel Radcliffe like, from what I vaguely remember of the movies, isn't Daniel Radcliffe like of the age now of what his character Harry Potter would have been in like those flash forwards?
In the flash forwards,
right? Like,
yeah,
isn't he like late 30s,
well,
40s?
He definitely is. So yeah, he should have been in a sense, but they made him look so old in those epilogues.
I'm just saying, Daniel. If
you
are tired of doing the weird plays and the weird movies where, he's in that movie where like guns are sewn to his hands.
Truly, yeah.
He's done some weird shit.
Fun, weird shit, yeah.
He's in that Sandra Bullock movie with Channing Tatum that I watched on a plane.
A little rom-com-ish.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was. Yeah, he's currently on Broadway. He's currently nominated for a Tony as of the taping of this
Tony the Tiger?
Tony the Tiger. Great.
You get like a whole box of like lifetime supply?
Maybe. Who knows?
One of my favorite cereals, to be honest. Frosted Flakes.
It's a gem. What a gem. So no, I would not be upset if and as they recast and or retell the stories that they. Now, granted, we'll get into this later, but spoiler is I would rather not just do a remake of the content we have, but go somewhere else in the world of it all. But we can
Hollywood hates
dive
you.
into that. Hates me. How dare you?
Hollywood's
original
like,
thought.
don't do that. They're like, why
again.
would we do that? Don't do that.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah.
And then I will just say, for the sake of like my origins around. Oh wait, no, we'll just finish. Did you ever read any of the books?
Oh yeah, I only read up to book 4.
Okay.
And then I was like, this shit's boring.
Okay, fair.
It's the same thing. Abusive family members, some evil in the world. Harry and friends go back to school. Big Quidditch thing, Christmassy thing. Some more evil shit. Big battle. Everyone goes home. It was the same thing over and over again. So it was like boring.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
There you go. So then that's where you ended. Did you see any? You've seen all the movies, but did you see them in theaters?
I saw every movie in theaters. Very proud of that.
All 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Couldn't tell you what happened, but.
Well, I think you just did. I think you just did.
Yeah, no, I mean.
You just did tell us what happened in those books.
That thing, that stuff happened. I mean, no, the movies. I like the movies because the movies, to me, it felt like they realized that the books were like the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So the movies feel like they changed it up a bit. I don't know.
I mean, they definitely, because they had different directors in each one, I think there was a space that they did try and hit a few different of the beats or whatnot, but they left out a lot of unique things, as any of us who are fans of the books will say. There are missing things. But and you saw all 8 movies. Good. Did you see any Fantastic Beasts?
Oh yeah, I saw all those as well.
Okay.
I saw the last one in theaters.
Okay.
The one with Mads Mikkelsen.
Right, Mads
Mikkelsen. I only saw it in theaters because of Mads Mikkelsen, because I think he's great in
great.
Hannibal.
Oh.
I was hoping for similarities.
Like, let's go with that vibe. Yeah.
I mean, why not? Deal. Like, that kind of works, right? Like,
I mean,
for that character, like, yoo-hoo.
Grindelwald. Yeah, terrifying.
Very terrifying.
And then for my connection to Star Wars was I mean, not to win, but saw episode 1 in theaters, so that was really fun as a kid.
Yeah.
Thanks. But no, that was my one of my first big when you were talking about kind of family outings or whatnot up to the movies. That was my memory of one of the first ones that everybody was really excited about versus just parents begrudgingly in a sense taking their kids to a kid movie.
Right. Yeah.
It was when Phantom Menace came out that it was this moment of oh, I get to rise up to their ranks or stakes, you know what I mean? And see Phantom Menace. But then fun fact, Darth Maul became the villain of my nightmares for the rest of for the next 10 years. Yeah. It was just he was just terrifying. I don't know.
It is a terrifying face.
It was. Yeah. And I had seen the original 3 before seeing the prequels. And so I wasn't, maybe it's because I saw the full arc of Vader in a quicker amount of time. And obviously you see the arc of Darth Maul as we at least knew it at that time.
Yeah.
But I was so terrified of Darth. He was a great minimal talking, high scare value, red, sliced in half,
dead.
But it was funny. The biggest part that Darth Maul was in my nightmares of was that he was when he was on the speeder in Tatooine. Remember when he gets in the building, and he like flies. Mm-hmm. It was like his ability to transport.
Transportation is what scared you about Darth Maul, not his look, just how he moved.
But it was like because he could get me. It was the space of like I could never like outwin against Darth Maul. Not because he had the double saber or anything. It was just the fact that but it was something about the speeder moment that terrifying.
Scared you.
So yeah, anyway.
That's good. That's good.
So we, which is fun that we have, in some space, a lasting connection to both Star Wars and Harry Potter, even though we have different layers to it. But I thought we could just essentially put them side by side, hear out our thoughts on some of these fun comparisons. Usually people like to say comparison is the thief of joy.
Sure.
Actually, a lot of people say that, and but I'm gonna do my best. We're not gonna steal either of our joys. We're gonna love both these IPs as much as possible, and to make the other love it more. And then we'll see where we get.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, so Star Wars has a lot longer of a lifespan at the moment.
1977.
Yeah, and Harry Potter kicked off in 97.
Wow, only a 20-year age? Wow, that's weird.
Which is weird.
Wow, that's so weird when you think about it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't like time. Anyway.
And then fun fact, in some of my research for ahead of the pod, I also found out that George Lucas put out a Luke Skywalker book 6 months. He put a book out before A New Hope or Star Wars, but 6 months before the movie release. So my question is, have you ever read any Star Wars novels?
Star Wars novels? Yes, definitely read novels, but I have not
that one.
Not that one. I wasn't even aware that was the thing that he did.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense. They did that quite a bit back in the 70s, especially with Westerns. They would put accompanying pieces because Westerns were really, really big back in the day.
True.
So that makes sense. But I've read quite a few Star Wars novels, graphic novels, and things.
Yeah. Nice. What is your take on kind of the birth of Star Wars? And, aside from this, small book that George put out before the movie, but the movie being the launch pad for Star Wars and the books being the launch pad for Harry Potter. What is your take on source material being a film franchise that has then burst into the world versus a book franchise that becomes films?
Oh, so okay, I get what you're saying. I think it's actually funny because there was a whole weird discussion a couple months ago on TikTok about various mediums going from one thing to the other. And there's a pretty big movie TikToker, I'm not going to say his name, kind of made a big stink about this and how, creativity wise, people shouldn't put that out there or whatever.
Shouldn't put out the fact that they don't like the source material, or what
he was basically saying if you don't think that every single medium can be redone as another medium, you're just not creatively thinking, and you should be quiet. Is basically what he said.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So, I think it works. I think it all depends on timing. Timing is everything.
Fair.
Star Wars is only as big as it is because it got lucky. It got lucky, the right things happened, and the right formula was created. A lot of people would argue Star Wars is not as big as it is because without the toys, without Lucas knowing some people who had an idea of, hey, why don't we turn these into toys?
Totally.
If that little simple thing didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be still talking about Star Wars today.
That's fair.
It could have been.
Didn't he put his own money into product as well? Yeah, that's crazy.
He basically dependent on his licensing deal with whatever the toy company is that I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it could very well have been Star Trek if whoever had the insight of hey, let's make Starship toys and
100%.
And sell those. A lot of things were doing toys and whatever, but Star Wars stuck. So got lucky there. I think it works both ways. Movies to TV, movies to books, books to movies.
Movies to TV.
Movies to TV.
TV to streaming.
I mean, podcast is another medium, right?
True. Yeah.
And like
comics are a different medium.
A lot of people learn more about like the history of these worlds, especially in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Foundation, the Apple TV series,
Yeah.
which is based on a book, has a companion podcast where they talk more insight in terms of like the differences between the book and the movie.
There it is.
So like again, it helps with that world building.
Yeah. Now, I hear what you're saying. For the sake of that, like any medium we can jump mediums. We can kind of have that. Like I support jumping mediums for sure.
Sure.
But I think that there's something about capturing a book audience that then translates to like movies or to like if the source material is a book. I think it's just like a unique community around that creative idea in my mind.
So like in the sense that like you shouldn't take a book to a movie? Is that what
Oh,
you're
you
saying?
should.
You
Or
should.
as like if you can write a book, if you
Right.
can have your books become something, or if you can, get a screenwriter to work, or just like, or I don't know, or just like, shout out to books, I guess. But like the space of like write a book and then like just like create. I think creating a movie just straight up is difficult. I mean, for obviously it's not difficult. I'm also not saying writing a book is easy.
No,
but I'm
definitely
saying
not.
like the space of like having a film do really well. And like I guess like maybe not that books are doing any better. I don't think, but like especially in this day and age, like the amount of content we have coming out on screen is like at max, and so the space of being able to have a movie like strike a match, I mean, even having sitcoms strike a match like feels pretty minimal at this point. But I think if you can capture a book community, I think you can. It's a launch that is unique of its own versus a movie launchpad.
Well, that's why I think Apple TV is killing it right now with their sci-fi. They've taken majority of their sci-fis, the bigger hit ones, have all started out as books or short stories.
Yeah.
So I think Hollywood's very, very aware of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing with any form of entertainment now, because technology has allowed it to be cheaper and more accessible, and the internet has allowed it so that anyone can publish anything. Like I can go and publish a book probably before the end of today.
Sure.
And it could be a pile of nonsense.
Sure.
And and what I mean, and I'm going to be very cautious with how I'm saying this, but I don't know if that power should be like allowed for everybody, because
Fair.
books from like a historical standpoint, like books do transcend time
Yeah.
with their ideas, their stories, all that fun stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of
a dangerous power to wield.
power. The written word is the thing that will outlive probably most of us, if not all of us.
That is true. And I think I had just like one last or extra thought on it was the space of like when you write a book too, you're also like creating your own lore, which I think when you make a movie or even a TV show, like you are condensed by time or like what attention span your audience is going to give it. And so you have to kind of like narrow down some of that lore, which doesn't mean that that can be swept up and taken in such a fun way by the audience, and then they make their own fanfic or they make their own, they have legends, all these fun things, But I think the space of like when you write a book, you can really like you put the lore in that you want to,
right?
And then it's like then your people are in it because they're in it with the thing that's on like
Sure.
the page,
Right?
I don't know. I just I love a book.
It's interesting that you bring up the book stuff and the community stuff, because like Star Wars pre-Disney,
Yes.
kind of allowed that.
Kind of
wasn't
allowed. What do you mean?
in the sense of like the idea of like fan fiction.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Lucas Publishing specifically, like if you were a decent sci-fi writer and you had an interesting idea, because they weren't so big on this idea of like a connected whatever.
Sure.
They were letting writers explore new ideas, new concepts. That's how we got Thrawn. Thrawn is an idea that I think it's his last name is Mr. Zane had, and he wrote these novels about the character of Thrawn and his thing being in the Empire and
Yeah.
But then once everything became in a House with the Mouse, it's very constructed and very, this is what we need to be doing. It's less fanficky. Like, I guess, have you like looked at any of the Harry Potter fanfic? Because I know a lot of it is, I'll just say it's like very out there, like very strange and different. And I think fanfic is by nature that, but like have you personally looked at any, or have you written any?
I have not written any, so you can't Google my name and find some MuggleNet shit, but it's good stuff.
MuggleNet shit.
MuggleNet.
What's
MuggleNet
that?
was like the community hub for a
Oh,
long time.
see, I'm learning.
Yeah.
It was
Muggles,
like
yeah.
it was like a
Muggles.
website, like
Yes,
Muggle,
that's
like
where, like, you-
Muggle.net.
Yes.
Oh wow, I need to check that out later.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's translated to so many things at this point, and I think MuggleNet still exists, but it's. I mean, if it still exists, I'm not sure how community ran, or if it's just going to redirect you to wizardingworld.com. Like, I just don't know if Warner Brothers essentially bought MuggleNet, because
I would
MuggleNet.
imagine they did.
MuggleNet was, as far as from my memory, was created by fans, and then JKR started putting with their permission, like she put like different blogs out to create more lore
That's so
around it.
cool.
Like that's actually I think where we were confirmed that Dumbledore is gay and things like that. Like it was all via this like, and that was like where you. But then once Wizarding World took it over, well, it was like this like weird middle ground where like Wizarding World was kind of about to, it wasn't called that still, but it was like essentially the Harry Potter world was going to take it over. And then that's where you could go in and find your house, find your Patronus. Like there were things that kind of brought you to it in addition to like JKR writing stuff, which at the time was super exciting to us, as well as just like community events or Quidditch and all the things, you know?
At the time.
At the time. But
Is this before Twitter?
I think it was quite before Twitter. Or maybe it was at the inception of Twitter was a baby as well.
Gotcha.
But the space of, oh my God, how did we get on this? I was talking about, have I written anything? So I have not written anything on
Got it.
MuggleNet.
Right.
And that's not because MuggleNet was shit. It's just me saying, MuggleNet stuff. I haven't ever put anything up there. But the space of having read a lot of I would say my interaction with fanfic and Harry Potter largely was like a lot of like side like versions of people's different pairings, what the people are shipping in a sense, and different like relationships and what people built out there. I would say one of the things that I haven't seen a whole bunch of like written fanfic on it, which I know that's out there, but I haven't read as much into it, but is like it's still very Hogwarts based, but like different stories on different characters being the Marauders or different like Aurors and like different like positions within the Ministry of Magic and things like that, which would be super fun.
Wow,
But I have
y'all a bunch of nerds.
like deep nerds. But also it's like it's very funny because like it's also we'll get into it, but it's just not as like I think it's not as widely. We're not all out here wearing repping Hogwarts all the time.
There's
It's a very fine line.
There's no like equivalent to like the 501st.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
For people who aren't aware, so 501st in the Star Wars world, and the actual story of Star Wars, the 501st is the garrison, the clone unit that is controlled by Anakin Skywalker. In the real world, it is a charitable costuming group that dress up as Star Wars villains to go around and do charitable events. It is super toxic.
It's also actually really funny when you put it in that one sentence of like they dress up as villains to go do charitable work. It's just like a funny conundrum of like,
it's a tagline. And
I mean,
it works.
they're pretty dope. Yeah.
Whoever came up with that probably has a marketing degree, I would
Probably,
imagine.
there it is.
Yeah.
But
It was
so
George
no, as far
Lucas.
as I know, but like, yeah, exactly. But I mean, you can also wear a graduation cloak and essentially feel like you're at Hogwarts because they wear cloaks and stuff. But you can also go to Universal Studios and buy it for like $150 if you want the legit one or something.
My God.
But as far as I know, there aren't. And it's also, I don't know. It's also like, well, I guess we can just get into this because I have an outline, but we can just go rogue too.
It's funny that you thought we were going to stick to the outline when we're
And I'm
talking
so
about
close.
these two things.
That I love.
Like, no.
But it's like funny because like when you talk about the 501st and people dressing up as villains and celebrating villains is like if someone walked around with as people, I mean, it's more funny to walk around as Voldemort. Like I've never seen someone authentically in a sense dress up as Voldemort, but I've seen like Dragon Voldemort, or I've seen people like be really silly in like wearing weird like bald caps to like dress up as Voldemort. I haven't seen as much like I am authentically walking out here as Lord Voldemort.
Sure.
But then especially if people actually dressed up as Death Eaters, who were like his minions basically or whatever, obviously, which is his stormtroopers.
Basically.
It's funny as I'm like thinking out loud about it because stormtroopers are widely accepted. They're cool even, and it's like, whatever. But like you would just, I mean, I don't know if we should say the word or not, but like you would just feel super Nazi to like walk around as Death Eaters or KKK. Like you just would, and it would be awful.
Yeah.
Like if I saw someone being like, we're going together as the Death Eaters, I'd be like, well, or Dementors, I'd be like, I think you're actual, like, you need to be checked into a hospital. I don't know.
Well.
but stormtroopers are cool. I don't know. It's a funny.
It is a weird line because like
Yeah.
George Lucas has said many times like the idea of the Empire is based off of like the Nazi regime.
Yeah.
The stormtrooper term is a term that was used during World War II.
Yeah.
So it is kind of weird that people do dress up as those and walk around, as that. My thing that I was going to jump, for charity. My thing that I was going to jump on was your comment of, if you're a Death Eater, yes, I would be like, that's kind of weird. And
they have
Nazi.
hoods. They look like the KKK.
But Dementors, and correct me if I'm wrong,
okay,
because I always thought Dementors were like a cool aspect, because like they're creatures of darkness,
and they just suck your soul,
right? But they don't care who you are. They're not biased. If you have a spirit, they just want to eat it up.
Just swallow you whole.
Yeah, they just want to suck you.
Quite. Yeah, I mean they don't. Yeah, they're not human or like as far as I don't know actually. So that's a good. I don't remember at least all the lore of the Dementors, and I'm sure we have more lore on the Dementors of how they came to be. But no, they're definitely a more objective crew. They're not Death Eaters choose it.
Yes.
Very much there's a choice. They're human. They're wizards in it. Wizards and witches.
And Dementors are like creatures.
Yeah, who guard Azkaban and then are also like just around to threaten you and make things cold. So yeah, so I guess Dementors are supposed to be cooler.
I mean, they're basically the ring wraiths from like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I remember I was at a convention years ago and I saw a group of people in like black hoods and things, and I yelled out, "Oh, look, hey, it's a bunch of ring wraiths."
Oh.
And people were like, "No, those are Dementors." And like, y'all look the same.
It's all there. Yeah.
I'm not being prejudiced here. You're just wearing a black cloak with darkness.
With a weird face, with lack of face. It happens.
Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so that's just like striking me right now of like, if people walked around as Death Eaters, I'd be like,
shouldn't go to Harry Potter.
But stormtroopers had choice.
Well, did they?
Yes.
Some of them.
That's the whole point. Clones didn't have choice.
Well,
but stormtroopers did.
Oh boy.
Go ahead. What do you have to say to that?
Well, you are right. Anytime you join a military force, you have the choice of joining or not joining. It's not like they were drafted. Well, some of them were drafted. Like we saw in the Solo series, like a lot of them were put in situations where they had to either join or be thrown.
We even saw that in Rebels when they were taking kids and stuff.
Yeah, so they were like, and also like even like I'm not a big fan of the sequel trilogy, but like Finn's character is this stormtrooper who's forced into it.
Sure.
Even though he knew it was wrong and wasn't the thing to do, place to be, whatever.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, it's all choice. Yes, you are right there. So
anyway. This is fascinating.
But save the weird ideologies of bad things and IPs.
Yeah.
And why we like the bad things for later.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, we'll jump to one of my topic ideas, which is the value of belonging to IP. I think like as a fan is I think really I think any writer, screenwriter, playwriter, author, they want people to obviously feel like, oh, I want to be a part of that tribe or that, group or that the rebel crew or, or even like if they want to feel connected to the Empire or if they want to feel connected to a Hogwarts, class or, school. But what are your takes? Because there's a lot of takes on the Harry Potter side. So I kind of start, you can start. But on the essence of like, there's a lot of hot takes that JKR having Hogwarts have different, you're in Hufflepuff, Slytherin, Gryffindor, or Ravenclaw, and that was actually really while there's a unification to it, it's also highly polarizing. And I would say in Star Wars, like being Jedi, Sith, or light side, dark side, or whatever, is both gives belonging, but also like is very polarizing. And so like we're like right, I mean even kind of as we're kind of coming from the transition, like, as I was thinking of. Talking about like, oh, people think the stormtroopers are cool. What are your, like, in the essence of belonging, like, oh, I like the Sith, Like,
you can't create anything anymore, or ever, I think, without having sides to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because even in the story itself, like a good story is conflict.
Sure.
It is. It's human
life
nature.
Is conflict.
Yeah, life is conflict.
Totally.
Like we as people, we love conflict. We love having sides,
the drama,
and things to pick from. If we're told Bob woke up today, Bob had a sandwich, Bob went to bed, the end. That's a boring story.
For sure.
If it was like Bob woke up, Bob attacked the sandwich people and then ate them, and now Bob's having nightmares, and now there's a sequel where the sandwiches return to destroy Bob.
Classic.
Then you have sides to pick from.
Totally.
It's like,
All
is
right.
Bob right? Is the sandwich right? I don't know.
For sure.
So I think it's smart to have different
Yeah.
factions, like especially in Harry Potter, having the 4 houses.
Yep.
It's 4, right? Yeah, 4 houses. Having the 4 houses and then getting the fans of your franchise to fight amongst themselves and have discussions and conflict. It just gets people talking. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
On that note, though, like, which house are you?
I'm per the test. I'm in Gryffindor.
Oh, wow.
So.
What does your gut tell you?
Probably.
Slytherin.
No. Probably. To be like real millennial with it. Are y'all ready? Is Sun Gryffindor, Moon Hufflepuff.
How do I
that?
leave
Did
this
you get that?
podcast? Can I just walk off? Is that? Can I just walk out?
I think I
do
have
that?
some solid traits of Hufflepuff for sure. So
It's okay. Let's,
do it. I dare
this
you.
just spawned like a whole other topic.
Uh-huh.
Like, okay, you say that like the millennial thing, like
Astrology?
astrology. Is
Okay.
astrology tied into Harry Potter and just completely missed that?
Absolutely not. No.
Are you sure? Because like they're like, and what I mean by that is like astrology is based on like traits, character traits, and things.
Okay.
And da 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 da.
Okay.
And that's the same thing with the houses, no? Right? Like various character traits. So I'm not saying that like astrology directly influences the houses, but what I'm saying is like the idea of how astrology is set up. Is that how you figure out your house? And basically, it's a mimic
Oh, I see.
of astrology.
I see. No, it's. I would say it mimics more like the Myers-Briggs test.
I don't
Something
know what
like
that
that,
is.
which is like your personality test.
Oh.
Whereas astrology is all about your birth and placement of the stars with your.
Wild.
So in the essence of like, if you're talking about like nature versus nurture,
Got it.
astrology is going to say this is your nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like you have no almost choice in it. Like you were born at this time in this place on this day. And then this gives you your astrology that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a Myers-Briggs test or any sort of Enneagram or like all these different like, personality trait strengths finders tests or whatever, they're essentially reading how you were nurtured and then like essentially your personality based on like how you chose things going forward.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
yeah. It's mostly just I'm just ranking them. Like if
Sure.
I would, because even though it's really not cool anymore to be Gryffindor, like it's really not the space of I guess like I've just been like wired to like have been so excited when I got Gryffindor when I was taking the tests when I was like 13 or whatever, and it was funny then because then in college, which I am a nerd, so it's like but we all retook because I hosted at a full
Jesus. Wow.
I hosted at my house a full 24-hour marathon of all 8 films. It was so great. People came in different waves of times. I hosted like in between it because we all had to stretch and stuff. Like
Was this like your parents' place or like your apartment?
college.
Oh, it's like your apartment or dorm
yes,
or
I
whatever.
had a house with like 5 girls.
Oh, geez.
And I was like determined. It was like around Halloween or whatever. And
Yeah.
it was just like it wasn't for Halloween, but it was like around it. And it was like, y'all, I want to do this. And people came in. It was so great.
The closest thing I've
God, it
ever
was great.
done to something like that is so when I was in college, Family Guy was, to me, it was peak Family Guy.
Okay.
And they released their Blue Moon, Blue Milk, Blue whatever. It's basically their version of Star Wars. Episode 4 was what came out. Like
Family Guy put out a feature length.
it was like 45 to an hour.
Okay, damn. Okay, nice.
Of their retelling of Star Wars through like Peter Griffin's like
Telling.
version. Yeah, and like each character's playing different characters. Like,
Okay.
I think Stewie's
Yeah.
Vader.
Great.
Peter's Han. Lewis is Leia.
Yeah,
And Chris is like
oh my god.
who's Chris? Chris is Luke.
Sure.
And then Meg plays all the disgusting monsters. But like we hosted like we did
watch
the
party.
a watch party where we watched the original Star Wars, and then we watched that right afterwards.
Nice.
And like I still quote a lot of the Family Guy version of A New Hope.
Love that.
Like there's the Han line where it's like don't get cocky. In Family Guy it's like don't get penisy, kid. It's like shit like that. It's like,
You're like it's
it
right
works.
there.
It works. It
It
works.
so works. But anyway, I had to reprove that I was a Gryffindor because I had people retake the house test
Yeah.
in one of our movie breaks. man, I had a schedule. I had it out the door. Like I had snacks. I had themes. I hosted a spelling bee. I had like people do different like dance. Like it was great.
You should do one now.
Find me
every like 10 years.
Do it.
Every 10 years, retake the test.
That would
and then do
that
a
would
party
be over 10 years ago. But yeah.
Yeah, but why not? I mean,
Why not?
they say you change as a person every 7, so yeah.
And
now you'll be a Slytherin.
The 8 movies don't. Who knows? It's true.
I mean, your perspective on the movies probably is different too.
For sure. But I will say, I do think I'm totally with you in the essence that like a writer, they want people to belong, and they have to create a conflict, and as well as like, I think there is, while there's validity to like everyone being, you know, unified, and we don't have houses, or we don't have to pick a good side or the bad side, or even like in Boba Fett, but you know, when it was essentially Mando, what was that 2.5 season 2, 2.5,
right, 2.5.
But where like, you know, where Luke gave Grogu the Mando and Jedi choice, you know, so it was interesting because it wasn't light and dark, but it was still like very much like Luke was so trained to be like, you have one of two options, like you have to stick to one of two. Is I think the space that like I understand the necessity for belonging, and also like really kind of like honing that in for a character arc, for like knowing a character, kind of like making it simple in some fashion too. I think there's also like, yeah, when you now granted you can write it, but you can't, what is it? The phrase of like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, in a sense, is like, you can create, here's the options of where you could belong in my IP, you know, like if you like to read, you can be in Ravenclaw, or if you're really like evil, you can be in Slytherin. Cunning, I think they always call it.
Cunning is evil.
Cunning is like, yeah, it's the synonym for, you know, you're a Slytherin, you're evil, you're cunning and witty or something.
Got it.
Anyway, the nice word of it, but the space of like, I think there the PC word, but I think there is actually beauty to finding like, you know, separation as well, or kind of finding like, hey, like I relate to you, and like, so immediately like, you know, someone who sees your tattoos can think like, not only like, oh my God, it's Star Wars, but it's like, oh, it's a piece of Star Wars that they uniquely like, you know, whereas like people can have like just a Deathly Hallows on them, or they can wear it or whatnot, but they can also walk around in your Harry Potter house colors, and all the more it's going to be like, oh my God, Hufflepuff, you know, or like, you know, versus I get excited anyway if I see someone in Harry Potter ish, but like the space of like, if it was also somebody who was like, you know, repping the Lion, I'd be like, oh my God.
Do you at a grocery store when you're working,
sure,
do you yell across the way to a person and say, hey, how much for you to give me your shirt?
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, a couple times.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
How many times have you done it?
Never, because I like my Star Wars shirts.
Sure.
I'm not gonna just sell some random person my Star Wars shirt when that's all I have.
That's all I have. I'm shirt on my back.
Yeah, like what the heck?
No one's ever done that to me, but that is definitely shout out to, I don't own as much Harry Potter product as you own Star Wars product, and or wear it out as much.
Wearing it proudly.
When, you know, and I can use that as the bridge to when we talk about the communities of fans, you know, we talk about like belonging or whatnot to the fan base, if you will. I would say for Harry Potter fans as of late, it's definitely been like, in a sense, like by no means is this like me throwing a pity party, because there's way bigger things happening in the world than if someone is feels okay or permitted to wear Harry Potter product or not. But the space of, you know, as a Harry Potter fan, it's definitely, I would say, not as widely celebrated, or maybe shout out across a grocery store to be like, dude, I love your shirt.
Love
like
the shirt.
I'd be like, did you know that a turf is, you know, a part of your, you know, the core of Harry Potter, you know, it's like these things where it's not as there are spaces that it's widely celebrated, and I think that there is a lot of, you know, is space for celebration of Harry Potter existing in the world, but also a lot of tension for our community, to where I would say that the community of Harry Potter fans is definitely not as loud and proud. You know, very much unfortunately to, you know, the creator of it, like kind of saying things that definitely not everybody agrees with. Definitely we don't think her characters would even agree with. And or the characters that we came up with, and, you know, like kind of got a lot of our voices or a lot of our joys like from that space, you know, and then thus like it's kind of been not like taken from us, because I think people have like redefined it and refound spaces of joy in Harry Potter and all the laughter, but the community is definitely not highly active or highly like proud to do that. Be like, oh my god, like.
Well, I mean, I say they are. I mean, it's tricky to say like a blank statement across
Sure.
If we look at just the United States, for example.
Yeah.
I would argue in places like Los Angeles or Orlando where there are specifically theme park attractions.
Yeah.
I believe there are like a couple times a year they do the weird what I call pothead meetups.
Sure.
Or Harry Potter meetups, specifically at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
But like if you look in the middle of the country, I'm sure it's far and few and probably not even like there or whatever.
Yeah.
There are definitely far less like conventions. There are far less meetups and I believe there is a costuming group for Harry Potter, but
I'm sure.
They're again not as large as like a Star Wars or a 501st
at all. What's your take on the presence of the Star Wars community at the moment?
Where to start? I mean, the community right now feels like it's in a good spot.
Cool. I like it.
We are a couple weeks or the taping of this specific pod episode right this second.
Yeah.
Acolyte has not come out. That's the newest Star Wars live action project.
Yeah.
I know already based on the previews of things that I've been seeing that it's going to be very split down the middle. You're going to have a lot of loud speakers and a lot of people saying things, and I would say that's annoying, especially since it hasn't even come out yet and people are already giving heavy opinions and saying things that don't necessarily make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of the problem is sometimes the fan bases. Because I remember when the Fantastic Beasts stuff came out, fans didn't seem as divisive. Is it divisive or decisive?
What are you trying to say?
Like
Keep talking.
Split. Where they're
Divisive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Words are hard,
We were
man.
decidedly divisive.
Yeah. They weren't as divisive as like Star Wars fans are when anything comes out or is announced.
No.
So
True.
I personally find it to be exhausting.
The divisiveness of Star Wars fans.
Yeah. Where it's just like, let the thing come out first.
Yeah.
Then give an opinion.
Hell yeah.
There's no point in like getting people, hot-blooded over something that hasn't come out yet.
True. I hear you.
But again, I think it's also part of the blame is there's just so much coming out
for Star Wars.
Yeah. And then there's also just this thing called social media.
Yes.
And everyone has a platform now.
Everyone has a say.
Shout out to our TikTok KYSO podcast, by the way. Make sure you go and follow us there.
Make it happen. But I mean, I think the space of, I think everybody can have a say. And I think what's interesting is I would say Harry Potter fans, when content comes out, not that it's been years now since it has, but we relatively get excited about the content. Obviously those of us who know the books versus movies, and then where people had hoped the Fantastic Beasts / Grindelwald / Dumbledore story was going to go, didn't go, all these things. I think it's interesting because Harry Potter fans largely were now in a sense so quick to critique, in a sense, like the behind the scenes or like the makers of it. And not even just including JKR, but when all the Johnny Depp stuff was going down, that really fucked with stuff. But then it's interesting to me because in my mind, where I see not that people in the Star Wars community don't complain about who made what, but I think it's largely content focused in my mind of like what the actual story is or what that is taking place versus, even though Star Wars has actively been like very much like, here's the director of this, here's this new person, or like they're really trying with that. But people still stay focused on that. And I don't know if there's not a better or worse, obviously, to that, except that Harry Potter, because we keep, in a sense, failing. And the we not, I guess, being fans, but the we being the Warner Brothers of it all side of it.
I was going to say
that they keep failing at casting and, who's making what and when, it just...
Yeah, because wasn't there also Ezra Miller in like in those as well, and they have had some problems.
True.
And
so it was just not. And J.K. Rowling was like real stuck on, I think, keeping both of them in it. So
not even that. Like we might as well. We're just real quick. We're just repeating things that are in the news. These are things you can look up, research them more if you want. But like the then CEO of Warner Brothers prior to their big merger with Discovery did come out and say that they would not be keeping JK on,
Right.
and like was very kind of like, this is, she can have her opinions, that's fine. They don't align with the opinions of Warner Brothers. Then after their merger with Discovery and that whole change up, the CEO said, actually, JK will be working with us on any future projects, and everyone is allowed free speech. And that's true.
It is true.
You are allowed free
You are.
speech in this country.
Not without consequences. But
Exactly.
yes.
There's this thing called cause and effect. You can say whatever. If suddenly less people are interested in your IP, don't get mad.
Just don't.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Very
It's
simple.
just
Yeah.
yeah. It's a tough one, but I will say, I like maybe like the next space we can go into is because of the lack of, well, with there being lack of film, TV, movies, even new products coming out for Harry Potter. And while I would say like, yeah, our community isn't maybe as like loud and proud about it,
Sure.
we're still there is an activity of Harry Potter fans though, for the sake of like, it's something is usually kind of in the world, obviously happening. The three, the big three of Harry Potter actors are still in projects or whatever. And that ignites Harry Potter fans to watch different
Hiding
things.
money in Panama.
Yeah.
Emma
Oh, yeah.
Watson. She's part of that. But
was.
that's fine.
I
because-
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
They have
like
a
to
lot of
point out
money.
people's flaws. and
Yeah,
people
it's-
tell
it's
me
good.
my flaws. So,
So, might as well do that right
might as well
there.
do that for other people.
But I will say, like, I think what's been interesting to watch is like while we're not maybe as like, yeah, loud and proud if you will or whatever, but like I don't think it's diminished people's love of Harry Potter for the sake of like what we know it to be or something. And I think from what I, would foresee for the studios of it all is that they think if they're not putting out new stuff, surely they're going to lose a lot of people. And while definitely, I mean, there's been many reasons why Harry Potter fans have also dropped off in different ways. But to me, it's actually like, it's helped me like kind of hold Harry Potter in a space of like, this is mine almost, or like, this is the mine of like the fellow fans who like hold on to it versus like, and kind of like, this is ours now rather than either JK Rowling's or rather than the big studios version of it. And thus like, it's to me, like there's like a further endearment towards it versus Star Wars that puts out a new project all the time in some fashion, or there's kind of a consistent movement. Now, granted, like the world is like expanded upon in so many more unique and cool ways than Harry Potter has taken risks yet. But what are your thoughts on kind of like an IP being saturated versus like hibernating, and like kind of where like the hype or the like what you could foresee as what that does to a fan and maybe the creativity of a project?
It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky because I know we're not supposed to be saying like one's better than the other.
Right.
They both
No,
suck. They're both great.
totally.
They're both range of emotion.
But you
But
can share a take.
But I think like one of the big takes, that the biggest thing that separates Star Wars from Harry Potter
All right.
is merchandise.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think merchandise, going back to the original trilogy, is what keeps the interest there.
Yeah.
And because it keeps the interest there, you need to keep building upon the interest because you need to keep pumping out the merchandise piece.
Sure.
Because the merchandise piece is so large and part of that business, especially on the Disney side, they have to have new content because they have to have new merch to sell. Otherwise, that entire branch that's kind of keeping that whole project up, they lose it and it falls away. And you run into this problem of, rights continuing, like maintaining what's there, and then also the stuff that's out there already, like you're basically like losing interest essentially from like your fans, and you want to be making consistent money
Because essentially you've trained them.
You've trained them, yeah. It's basically like once, there was a lot of merchandise already. I mean, there's always been merchandise tied to Star Wars, even when there was no
And Harry Potter.
content. Right, but not to the level that is
No.
Star Wars. Like Star Wars merchandise level, like it is truly insane because it's that weird thing where you can take a stormtrooper and you can sell it an infinite number of ways, from cookie jar to T-shirt to razor to whatever. While Harry Potter, I think it's way more difficult because how many ways can you sell a Dementor?
Well, because I think the thing that Star Wars has, in a sense, both strategically and then somewhat almost like magically, or like, you know, again, based on just how fans have taken it up, is they've had the good and bad guys be not even just captivating, but like relatable, or a space of, you can essentially, like, the bad guys aren't so bad that you all of a sudden aren't, because like, again, like no one's, you're not going to have a Dementor or a Death Eater on, like, there's not this like pride in like putting Voldemort's not cool, he's not cute, there's nothing. It's essentially like putting the Deadpool weird face, like you know, like the really scarred up face on something. It's like Voldemort's not attractive, there is nothing. The actor is a beautiful person, but like the character itself is not like something you're gonna like have around. And so I think that's like, right, so like the only kind of merchandise you can get, which there is a lot of merchandise for Harry Potter, but like you're gonna get like more of like the world building and or the good guys. Otherwise, you're not. I mean, and like in a sense, the only version of like a bad guy thing is like Slytherin pride, basically, in that. Otherwise, like Grindelwald just like flopped, basically, and then you're not gonna have. Voldemort wasn't, I think, ever gonna be, you know,
this thing that you would want.
Having around. So I think that is like a magical space of like that Star Wars, and like I would say like Lord of the Rings somewhat did that, because like, you know, like there are parts of like Mordor, like there are things in the bad guyness that was like cool enough, or like Gollum was cool enough, but you're also not gonna, like, the good guys were it was just such a good versus evil that like it wasn't as captivating. But Star Wars has truly somehow had the bad guys be just as much of a capture of their audience,
because everything in like the original trilogy is like toys. It's a big spaceship shooting another spaceship. It's an action figure beating another person or whatever.
And lightsabers and all that stuff. And
so in conclusion, Harry Potter sucks.
No, we're not.
Because there's not enough toys. I'll say this. Is there Lego sets of Harry Potter I can go
Yes!
buy?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes,
Castle.
They're beautiful. How dare you? Oh
okay.
my God. They're stunning. They're huge. And they're just as expensive as the Star Wars ones are.
Well, that's because Lego just sets their pricing accordingly. It's like, they're like, if we can sell this Millennium Falcon for $800, what in Harry Potter can we sell for $800?
The Hogwarts. Have you never seen the Hogwarts Castle?
I have.
Lego.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, well, great, then. Glad you have. So now you've proven your own
jealous?
point wrong.
Good.
That you. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I've
Great.
seen it.
Great. I've seen it. I've touched it. It's fine.
Touched
yeah.
it.
Whatever. I mean, obviously, we could go and just like be talking about this for.
Well, I will say this. I will give you huge props to you. You built a really good outline, and we touched on, I think, 3 things from your outline, which is crazy. So.
It is crazy. I'm going to end us with, well, let's just end with, what are you excited for what's to come in Star Wars? And I'll share what I'm excited to come for in Harry Potter.
Yours is pretty straightforward. Nothing, right?
Go ahead.
There's
Go
nothing
ahead.
on the horizon.
Wow. Well, how do I get out of this pod? You asked that earlier. I'm just going to say, how can I leave?
You just
now?
walk off stage. Just walk
Stage
off.
left.
Stage left. No, I think definitely excited for Acolyte. I think it's finally it's amazing to finally see stories outside of when the Skywalker saga takes place and there's 9 films. Like, we've gotten a lot of content around all of that stuff and those conflicts.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to see something finally outside of that time period.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that the first thing we saw in what they call the High Republic was a children's show. And then the next thing is this like potentially hyper violent murder spree mystery show or whatever.
Sure.
So love that contrast.
Truly. Yeah.
There's also a couple new video games coming out. So excited for those. And I'm also excited for a couple comics.
Nice.
That's coming out that I can't really speak on. But I'm excited for it.
It'll be great.
It'll be so amazing.
It'll be so fun.
But yeah, what about you? What are you excited for in the world of Harry Potter?
In the wizarding world. I am excited. I mean, I guess I'm intrigued by the upcoming Max production show. I think they're doing it. I don't know if it'll be a limited series, if it'll be a whole show.
I don't think they know what it is.
I don't think so either. I don't think they know any of that. And I think they're doing a lot of testing as they're doing it. I would, if Max needs anybody to watch shit, I would happily watch anything and give an honest opinion. But the space of, I am intrigued by it. Will I watch it? Absolutely. Am I hyper excited about it? No, because I, again, do wish we could go other places rather than just like stay in Hogwarts and or like in the same character arcs that we've seen. While obviously knowing the books, there's so much more depth to get into for those stories. I am very much more intrigued for other ones, but I will still 100% watch it. But I will definitely say do remain something, in the essence of like not being fully boohoo or like, yeah, there's nothing about Harry Potter that I'm excited about, is fun shit does always just pop up. Like even on TikTok, like I think it was like maybe last fall, there became this like really fun, like trend of all the other houses aside from Gryffindor, like celebrating each other and like saying that they had like the reasons they were like the way cooler house than Gryffindor, which has, essentially our big three are Gryffindor from the books and the movies so far. And so the space of like, it's been fun to like see different things pop up, or like the other TikTok trend last year of the chessboard scene from the Sorcerer's Stone. And I think it's those things that then like always like reignite this space of like the Harry Potter fandom that like feels very organically led and very organically like ran with. And so and then those also, I really love those, do tend to continue celebrating things that weren't just what was cool in the books or what we all kind of like came up with thinking this is the one thing that Harry Potter means or whatnot. So I still very much look forward to that, which is not like a solid piece of content or a thing that's like really graspable or tangible. But there's an excitement level for me consistently with Harry Potter, because there is something that when little things come up that just like make me smile and like bring me joy that I do love. And it feels, again, very community. It kind of feels almost kind of back to when we were, in that MuggleNet kind of era where it was kind of like, we're just doing this own little rogue thing, like, because we're kind of weird, even though the books were huge and we weren't that weird, but, we felt weird as
I remember
kids.
like whenever a new book came out, like the news, this thing called cable television, news network, because my parents used to have the news on, and there would just be, nonstop coverage of these crazy lines and things and book signings and all that fun stuff.
I was in those lines. It was a good time. I'm going to close this out with just a funny video for us to watch.
I just get upset when people want to act like it's like this seminal classic, the greatest literary hallmark of our time, because it's not. Right? It's not. J.K., news for you guys, and I'm sorry if this hurts. J.K. did not write a masterpiece. J.K. wrote Star Wars with sucky lightsabers.
Fact.
And if you don't believe me,
this is from 11 years ago.
If you don't believe me, that's okay. That's okay. Just take a look at the evidence, all right? What do we have here? Oh, it's a young male orphan protagonist who, for his own safety, been sent to live with his aunt and uncle until a mysterious bearded stranger, who's actually the one to deliver him to his aunt and uncle when he was a baby, comes into his life, starts to teach him about this ancient kind of magic.
It's so true.
Wiser wizard who's high most of the time.
Who's high most of the time?
Against this magic stuff, won't even tell him what really happened to his parents. But against his uncle's wishes, he leaves home for the very first time, makes new friends, meets a pretty young, impetuous girl, and while there will be an odd sexual tension between the two of them, he will only ever love her like a sister while she struggles with the feelings that she has for his best friend.
For his best friend! It's just too on the nose.
Super on the nose.
So on the nose.
Existence of this supervillain who killed his parents back in the day with his sorcerer's ways before he got super evil and started calling himself Lord something or the other.
Lord something or the other.
It turns out that our hero is naturally good at flying and locating incredibly small targets.
Has like JK ever like responded to this?
No.
Oh
That's
man.
Impossible. I used to bullseye snitches on my firebolt back home. They're not much bigger than 2 centimeters.
Damn.
Don't touch the goblet, Cedric. It's a trap.
It's a trap. Have you ever seen this though?
I think I have.
It's just a good time.
Like probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These stories that, like, quite frankly, bothers me is the fact that in both instances, you got this kid, right? This kid that they have to protect and hide from the baddest, most powerful dude in the universe, and they don't even change the kid's name. Like, I mean...
Oh, truly, yeah.
Google exists in England.
Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker.
They even made it to Hogwarts, you
Yeah.
know? Like, and when the Emperor tells Darth Vader, like, I've got no doubt this is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker, what gave it away?
What
Name
could?
Skywalker? Or the fact that he grew up on Tatooine with Anakin Skywalker's relatives. Come on, guys, this is witness protection 101.
Now I
Oh my
will
God.
say in Harry Potter's defense, J.K. has like blocked that one excuse is that Dumbledore put a like safety protection on Petunia the Dursley's home. So I'm just
Cool. Plot
Just saying.
plot armor. Got
You know,
it.
yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
got
yeah.
it. Got it. Whatever.
I hope she gets drunk on money and rewrites the first set of books, but with like newer, cooler words, a CGI version of Professor Flitwick, and minor yet aggravating changes to the plot. Like, Dumbledore shoots first? Are you kidding me, JK? What's happening?
It hasn't been a rewrite of the books yet, so
Hasn't been.
it's a
you
good way
know?
that's a good way to close it out. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was right.
You're right. Oh my God. No.
There was a point I was gonna make and I completely forgot it. Oh well.
Oh well, we've been talking for a while.
We
I think
have.
we could be talking about this one for
Ever.
ever.
Forever.
Because we care about it. And if anybody has any thoughts, feel free to drop them in the comments, say your pieces. And, you know, we'll see, you know, how Acolyte is. I'm excited for it too. And I'll be sending all of my friends and people fun Harry Potter TikToks as they come because those always bring me joy.
There you go. And with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, you can find this podcast, KYSO Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast on Apple or Spotify. The full video cuts are on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/KYSO Podcast, and our TikTok channel, KYSO Podcast. New pods every Saturday. Until next time, live long and prosper.